You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Middle Age Movie Reviews Podcast. Three guys saying somebody in this podcast ain't what he appears to be. Right now, that may be one or two of us. By the end of the recording, it could be all of us. I'm Tim, the station commander, and my chief mechanic and senior biologists are...
Mechanic Matt.
Senior biologist Joey. I swear it's laryngitis, and I'm not being slowly cloned by the thing.
All right, well, and joining our expedition tonight, we have our current resident bush pilot, Geoff. Say hello, Geoff.
Hello, Geoff.
All right, Joey, why don't you tell us what we're watching on the station's VHS player tonight, if that is who you are.
We will be watching number 715 from the book of 1001 movies you should watch before you die. And that's 1982's Fuck to Spit on That Thing, directed by John Carpenter, written by Bill Lancaster and John W. Campbell Jr., and starring Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, and Keith David.
All right. Well, Joey, this is the third film in your list of Halloween horror films. I am curious, when was the first time you saw John Carpenter's The Thing?
It's hard to believe, but for some reason this was off my radar until I was about 25 years old. And I could not believe I had lived that many years without seeing it. I was 3 years old when this came out, so obviously I wasn't going to see it in the theater. But holy shit, how did I not see this on TV or VHS? My first viewing was on DVD, and I've been hooked ever since.
Awesome. Well, you know, it's good that you got to see the highest quality as your first viewing. How about you, Geoff? When was the first time you saw the John Carpenter's The Thing?
Probably as a kid, probably either 1982 or 83, whenever it came out. I can't remember. I think it was 82. Probably saw it right around then.
Gotcha. You probably saw it in the classic VHS style then, maybe.
Actually, I think I probably saw it on cable.
Nice. How about you, Tim? When was your first going at John Carpenter's The Thing?
I want to say the first time I seen it was probably 10 or 15 years ago. And that was the last time until this time that I watched it. I was, first time I seen it, I was wholly underwhelmed with it. So this time around, I kind of looked at it with a different eye and I got a little bit different take on it. So we'll dig in. But yeah, seen it twice so far. Once about 15 years ago and once last night.
Well, my first viewing of this was a little hard to remember because I was definitely a preteen, and I'm pretty sure it was like a quote unquote blockbuster night with my parents. But I think the thing that kind of sticks out most as a child was seeing the head kind of falling off that body and then turning with its own spindly legs. It kind of creeped me out for the longest time, and I always had this like weird nightmare about that bit. But to see it like front to back all the way through, I don't think it was until I was in my early 20s. Joey, you know, I seen it on DVD. And I was like, oh yeah, I do remember bits and pieces of this. But yeah, so yeah, that was my experience with John Carpenter's The Thing. So of course, with all that being said, it's time to segue into our synopsis. Now I realize that we've been doing this for 32 plus episodes. And every time I try to swing by this and just get into the synopsis, but Tim has to go and ruin my perfectly planned, well thought out and written synopsis for some kind of crazy, off the wall thing for me to do. So Tim, what am I doing tonight?
I got nothing.
What? Really?
Nah, I'm just messing with you. All right. So, yes, Matt, as usual, I have thought up something very special for you. So tonight, keeping with the scientific theme of the film, I would like you to read it as an angry scientist, aka Blair, as you explain in rage what is going on here.
Let me out of here, guys. I want to get back to the building. Just because a dog from a Norwegian base managed to worm its way into our base, how was I supposed to know that this was a thing from another planet, found from a spacecraft that crashed in the ice thousands of years ago? Look, I'm trying to tell you that this thing can look like anyone. It's not me. I've been stuck in this shed for too long. Just because you guys are completely paranoid and other guys have been dying off doesn't mean that I'm the thing here. Even its blood can possess you, and I don't want to be stuck in here. Don't you get it? We're all in trouble. What can we do? Find out in this review of The Thing.
Very nice, Matthew. Very nice.
I almost didn't cringe.
Spectacular.
Very
That was spectacular, actually. One ping only.
All right. So, The Thing, as we said, directed by John Carpenter. So, guys, I've had a lot of people that, when I told them that we were reviewing The Thing, come out and say, "Oh, I love that movie. I think that movie is so great. I want to be part of this podcast. I want to talk about The Thing." And the first question I got to ask you guys is, what do you think makes The Thing so endearing to people to make them want to come and talk about it or watch the movie several times?
It's fantastic science fiction. It's a combination of science fiction and a thriller. And I think what endears people to this movie is the fact that this movie relied very lightly on the special effects. I mean, mind you, the special effects were amazing. But the fact of it is that this movie heavily relied on the actors and them to actually pull you in and make you believe that these are people at a station in Antarctica facing an enemy they can't see or any way, shape, or form figure out.
How about you, Tim? What do you think makes this movie so endearing?
I think it's twofold, especially after watching it the second time around here. It's the suspense for sure. I mean, it's a really in the realm of suspense, it's done very well. It's very believable. All these guys get very paranoid very quickly. You don't know who's who, or who's the thing, who's not. So it does a really good job of keeping you guessing. Almost all the way to the end. And so I think that's one part of it. I think the other part is the special effects, because it's gory, selectively gory, but when it goes full throttle gory. You know what I mean? It just they don't skimp on the effects to make it just really just disgusting and almost sometimes hard to look at. I mean, just disturbing in its in its presentation. So I think for horror fans, that's what draws them in, because it's just got, even now it just holds up. The special effects just look really, really good.
All right, Joey, in as few words as possible, I don't want you to hurt yourself. What do you think makes this movie so special to people?
It's the male camaraderie. There's no women in this film. There's probably women who are fans of this movie, but I usually hear it from men. Another film that's full of male camaraderie is Predator, the original. There's one female cast member. I think there's something about that it's definitely geared toward a male audience. You don't get that in the prequel / pseudo sequel. But in this movie, it's all about the guys. It's kind of a boys club film, and everyone's having to use their heads and try to problem solve. And I think that's it sounds sexist, but that's a very male mindset. Is how do we fix this?
Yeah, that is. How do we fix it? Every man, just how do I fix this so I'm not in trouble anymore? And this problem goes away. You hit it, Joey. You hit it right on the head.
You did well tonight, son.
You guys all hit solid points, and I think from my viewpoint, it's almost like that play 12 Angry Men. You got all your main principal characters confined in a small space, and there's one problem, and they all are trying to be the smartest guy in the room to solve the problem. And I think that's just kind of one great storytelling device, and that's what really drives the movie is just the storyline. And I think that's why it's so endearing to everybody, is because you could see yourself in this situation where you're stuck in one spot with a bunch of other people. What am I going to do to solve the problem? Let's go ahead and take a look at our story.
Hey, Matt,
Yeah.
Speaking of story, what does this movie and Predator have in common about the very fucking beginning?
Well, it has a giant spaceship
That's
or
right.
a spaceship flying through space, and it doesn't really give you a time period as to when that spaceship's flying through space. So I think that's kind of neat that you get a graphic like that. And then, of course, the star field and our wonderful logo.
Yeah,
So
it's just there's a lot of similarities between these two movies now that I'm thinking about it.
yeah, you do have a point. I mean, it's centered around an alien. It's centered around a group of men, and they all start dying off one at a time.
Both
Yeah.
have explosive endings.
Pun intended.
Just like Montezuma's Revenge.
Yeah, this movie does remind me of diarrhea. In a good way. If that can be possible.
I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I don't ever think those two phrases have been uttered in the same sentence, diarrhea, but in a good way.
Yeah, I've never walked away from that going, man, that was fantastic. Best one ever.
My God, I could shit through a screen door and I feel great.
I feel 15 pounds lighter.
Stop me from taking those tapeworm pills again.
Seeing this in 4K revealed a lot more colors, but I do have to admit, even though the consistency was often diarrhea, there wasn't any brown, but I did see a lot more yellows and greens.
I think he did that on purpose when he filmed this. So he filmed it with like very neutral colors, so that when you did see the gore, it was gory. Like it really stuck out. It was very much on purpose to keep it, very kind of pale looking.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, I do need to mention, when they talked about the dirty ripped draws, before I forget, there was in 4K I could see there was some brown stains on it.
That was just dried blood.
You're right, it might have been.
I hope so, because man, he handles those a lot later on when he's pondering this situation. He's like holding those in his hand, moving them around. I'm like, I don't think I'd be doing that. But we're jumping ahead.
Yeah. Our setting, of course, is in Antarctica. As Joey had already mentioned, we've seen the spaceship flying through the sky, or at least through the star field, and crashing onto Earth. So here we are in Antarctica. There's a Norwegian helicopter pursuing a sled dog to an American research station. And of course, we get shots of the inside, and we see our main characters, and they're just kind of like relaxing, having a good time. We got a couple guys playing ping pong, some people watching TV, and our main character, Kurt Russell, aka Jack Burton, aka R.J. McCready. He's sitting there drinking scotch, and he's playing chess with the computer. And of course, that's when they kind of hear the gunshots ringing out, and they go to witness the landing of the helicopter, and they're chasing this dog, and the Norwegian guy accidentally drops a hand grenade and blows up the helicopter and himself. And then, of course, the pilot manages to get out ahead of time, and he takes a rifle and starts shouting at the Americans, and he's taking pot shots at the dog, and he shoots one of the guys. But then, of course, our Commander Gary, takes a crack shot out a window and manages to shoot the guy right in the eye. I mean, we're talking like crack shot. I have to ask our resident weapons specialist, Tim, how amazing would that shot have to be?
It was a pretty damn good shot, considering he's just using a Colt revolver, and it was at a pretty good distance. So, yeah, I don't know the distance exactly. I didn't pay attention, but you'd have to be a damn good pistol shot to make that happen, especially to get him in the head like that, And yeah, center mass would have been far more believable in my mind. But damn good shot.
So yeah, these Norwegian guys, they're shooting at this dog, and dog kind of runs up to one of the guys, and of course that guy gets shot in the leg. It definitely brings up questions like, what the heck is happening in this movie? What's going on?
Well, if you speak that language, they revealed everything. Because the Norwegian guy was telling them exactly what they needed to know, but not in English.
Right. So, and that of course brings me to my question to you guys: is what did you think of this whole intro sequence? I mean, clearly there's some loss in translation happening here, but what do you think of the Norwegians showing up and trying to shoot this dog? And again, I'm gonna go to you first, Joey. Just
I think that they were all just taken off guard, and it is a matter of misinterpreting the situation. It's funny that none of them mentioned. It's like, hey, why are they chasing this dog? Because it was clear that they were chasing the dog. By the way, that dog is so well trained. And then it just instinctively kind of ducked when the helicopter went over it. It it was really afraid of the helicopter. So the dog is really one of the big stars of this movie. He's got great competition because nobody really had a shit performance.
Tim, what was your thoughts on the opening sequence?
Watching it, you're asking yourself, like, what the hell is going on? Like, how bad you got to hate a dog to chase it with a helicopter and an assault rifle? You know, it was pretty interesting watching that go.
Right.
And Joey's right, that dog, amazing, super well trained. I read up a little bit about it, and they said that dog was super easy to film and everything. Like it never looked at the camera. It always paid attention to its scenes, did exactly what it's supposed to. So usually it's a horror story when you have an animal on set. So, and a beautiful dog on top of it. You feel bad at the beginning. You're like, it's a beautiful dog. Why are you shooting at that thing? But I don't know if I'm those researchers and I'm watching two guys come in a helicopter and they're shooting the hell out of it. And then they're throwing grenades at it. I'm going to really wonder what the hell is going on. I mean, you got to really hate an animal a lot to want to throw grenades at it and to accidentally blow up your own helicopter doing it. So, it would make me question as to what's going on with this thing. I mean, I wouldn't think necessarily, alien, but still it begs the question if, what can a dog do to make two people that insanely mad? So pretty interesting scene.
Apparently.
I watched this last night, all doped up on nighttime cold medicine. And then, I kid you not, this morning, the first thing I saw driving out to the main road was a guy walking a husky.
Definitely something you want to see after watching this movie. How about you, Geoff? What did you think of the whole intro sequence?
Got mixed feelings on the whole thing. So a bunch of Norwegians flying around a helicopter, chasing a husky, with not only what are they, thermite grenades or something, and an assault rifle. I mean, even as a kid, I was kind of like, so you're telling me a helicopter, an assault rifle, thermite grenades, and they can't kill one dog? It's not like it's hiding in the trees.
Right.
Well, they are Norwegians, sir. They're not exactly known to have one of the best standing armies in the world. So, yeah, I mean,
respectfully.
Respectfully, I don't mean anything by that, but
shade on the Norse people, okay? They were Viking culture, and I don't want them invading my shit.
Well, if they've been throwing axes from the helicopter, that dog had been dead 10 minutes ago.
Well, I mean, who says they didn't have that in there too?
Well, right, that's true.
So he's fine through the air, and I mean, and just me being a pilot, you're kind of laughing because they're flying this helicopter as if it's a plane, and it's like, dude, all you got to do is just hover in front of the dog.
Right.
It's not a big deal. So even as a kid, I'm sitting there going, why is this so fucking hard? I mean, it's a dog. It's moving. It's like, all right, just aim for the black spot in the middle of the white desert here, and boom, done. But I think it from a cinematography standpoint, I think it opens up a lot of questions for the audience. If you've never seen the movie before, it starts out, here are these people chasing a dog. Why are they chasing this dog? Clearly, they're in a place that's either Antarctica or Norway. I mean, they should feel right at home, but why are they doing this? And enters the camp, and you've got an angry Norwegian starting to fire everywhere. And, one of the scenes is when, I can't remember his name, I'm going to have to bring it up, breaks the window to stick his pistol out. I'm like, okay, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Are we, is this like standoff at the OK Corral? What's happening here? Why is he breaking windows in Antarctica?
I did question that as well. Seems like a really bad idea.
And I mean, I had a Norwegian girlfriend in high school. Believe me, they speak English. There's no way he could not have said, "Get away from the dog."
Right.
You know, to be honest with you, I love this film, but I'm going to be very critical of it.
Gotcha.
Just FYI.
Well,
But so that's my take. Sorry, that's
No.
my take on it. I'm going to bring it up IMDb right now just so I can get the list of characters. So
gotcha. As we said, the pilot gets shot, and they have questions. You know, why are they going after this dog? So Dr. Cooper and McCready leave to investigate the Norwegian base, and while they're there, they see that everything's been charred up, and among the ruins is a frozen corpse, and they find the burnt corpse of a malformed humanoid. Which they then transfer to the American station. Now, I realize that they have questions, and I'm sure they probably use proper quarantine measures. But if you find something weird like that, do you really want to take it back to your home base?
Fuck no.
Yeah. And of course, while McCready's walking around, he finds a huge block of ice that had some kind of huge creature of some kind buried inside of it, because there's a huge hole inside of this giant ice cube. And of course, when they show back up, you know, they have again more questions. And I think that's one thing that kind of helps the storyline is there's always these questions. You know, what is this thing? You know, why were they shooting the dog? Why didn't we lock the dog up? You know, the dog's like still running around the camp. And of course, to help answer these questions, their senior biologist, Blair, takes an autopsy to the remains and finds a normal set of human organs and just some really weird stuff happening inside of this body. You know, nothing that didn't seem too too unusual, but just the fact that there's like all these extra appendges and stuff just kind of makes you contemplate and wonder what's going on. But before we get a little too further in the story, I want to just key point these two main characters that we mentioned. We mentioned McCready and we mentioned Blair. Of course, McCready's played by our wonderful Kurt Russell, our hero, and then of course Blair is played by Wilford Brimley. And I'm just go ahead and turn it over to you guys and just kind of give me your thoughts of what you think of Kurt Russell and what you think of Wilford Brimley. Tim, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you first, buddy.
Kurt Russell, how can you not like a character with such well coiffed hair? I mean, you know, he's that magnificent mane makes the character right there. So, no, I thought he did a really good job on it. I enjoy his character. I just enjoy Kurt Russell in just about everything I've ever seen him in. So he's always a fan favorite of mine. So the guy pretty much can do no wrong. So he did an excellent job in this, completely believable. I enjoyed him a lot. And then, the Blair one was a little harder for me because it's hard to see the face of oatmeal be, that guy. It just, like the guy who's tearing apart creatures and stuff, and is like a scientist like that. So, a little hard time with that one, but I don't know. Yeah, just Wilford Brimley in a horror sci-fi film just probably never should have happened in my mind. It just almost took me out of it every time. That guy is just he's your like humble happy grandpa. That's who that guy is. That's who he'll always be to me. So, but he did good with what he had to work with. But just took me out every time.
Gotcha.
And I don't know. And then are we talking about Carter too, or no? Just those two?
Sure. Why not? Tell me a little bit about what you thought about Carter.
And I liked Carter. I mean, it's kind of a breakout role for him, and I enjoy his character a lot. I mean, the guy's got a lot of charisma. He played very well off of Russell, so I thought, it's pretty hard to go up against Kurt Russell. He's a pretty charismatic guy. He's had, Kurt Russell. I mean, even though he hadn't had anything, I don't want to say major because he did a lot of Disney in his youth, so he'd had a lot of screen time. But being, kind of a badass, I mean, let's Escape from New York is really what sets the bar moving forward for him. But, nonetheless, he did a great job in that. And he follows it up with this one and does a magnificent job, too. So, Carter had to bring the A game, and he did. He did a really good job against him. And the same thing with Keith David, as Childs. I think he did a great job, too.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to go through the list. Like, which one was Carter again?
Yeah.
Carter was Knowles.
Yeah, he was Knowles.
All right, cool. TK Carter. All right, cool. All right.
Yeah, I probably really should have. Yeah. I probably shouldn't have thrown all those guys in there at one time.
No problem. So, Geoff, what did you think of Kurt Russell as R.J. McCready, as well as Dr. Blair, Wilford Brimley. And
I'm going to start out with Carter,
Okay.
who's a lesser well-known actor out of the three. I think he did a great job. I think, like you said, going up against people like Donald Moffat. Well, he wasn't even going up against them. He's working with them. So I should clarify that. Working with people like Donald Moffat, Wilford Brimley, Kurt Russell, and even Keith David, who was what was his? Let's take a look real quick. What was his first? As recall, Keith David had quite a few things. I thought he did a great job. Wilford Brimley, I actually really like his character, and the reason being is because of one simple reason. He makes it believable. Just flat out. I'm going to throw it out there. Wilford Brimley makes this believable. He's not a macho guy. He is not the best looking man on the planet. He's not got the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's kind of a bland character. He's kind of like a piece of rye toast with like nothing on it. But that was the character he was supposed to bring to the table. So Carter and Brimley both look like just normal people. Kurt Russell's character, oof. I don't know. I think they could have done a lot more with Kurt Russell's character. This whole macho bullshit about starting out, oh, I'm going to drink my whiskey in the shack by myself, and I'm going to pour it on the computer. Dude, it's 1982, okay? You just set like the whole camp back about $40,000 for a chess computer. And then to top it off later that day, well, let's go for a helicopter ride. Okay, cool. Let's go, Kurt. You've been drinking all day. Why the fuck not? Okay, well, so instead of actually doing something, mind you, they're in Antarctica, and he goes and gets like, Pappy the Prospector's hat. I'm like, what the fuck's going on with the hat?
That was really weird, that hat. I got to agree. It's
The-
like,
the
that's
hat,
the hat.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus, have these people never been in a Bell 206 before? I assure you, there's not enough room for that hat.
Sir, come on. You know when you go to the Antarctic, that's the kind of hat you want to wear because that's what's going to keep your ears and your head warm.
No, that's the kind of hat I want to wear all the time, okay?
They said they picked out the hat before.
So, to be honest with you, I personally did not like the writing of Kurt Russell's character, especially in the beginning. I feel like throughout the rest of the movie, he really pulls it together.
I think there's some film footage that got lost in that or didn't get filmed altogether because the idea behind his character was he was supposed to be some kind of Vietnam vet that kind of had a bad situation over there. And so he felt disgraced about it. And so he's hiding out basically in the Antarctic because he doesn't want to deal with it. And that's why he makes comments later on because he's kind of traumatized by this. That's why he doesn't seem to be so affected by the gore. And he says stuff like, well, I'm a really light sleeper, things like that. And I think if you know that, it makes more sense for the character. But I think when you watch the movie, since that's missing, at the beginning, you're just like, what's up with this dude?
Yeah, I mean, I can get that. The bad part about it is this is a problem with theatrical cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody here is there in existence The Thing special edition version?
I don't believe that there is. That was subtext that the director and Jesus Christ, I can't think of anything right now. Hold on a second.
The editor,
That was
the writer.
John Carpenter?
The Vietnam background was something that Kurt Russell and John Carpenter came up with when discussing the character. And as far as that big hat goes, they actually had it picked out beforehand, and they may have actually shot some footage, some second unit footage with a stand-in wearing the hat. So it was a done deal before Kurt Russell was even on set.
Fair enough.
Hang on. So there is actually a different cut of this movie.
Oh.
So Universal executive Sid Sheinberg provided a completely different cut of the movie, which included early scenes introducing each character. This version was disowned by John Carpenter. It could only be seen on the 2016 Scream Factory Blu-ray release. So there you go. So if you want to get some of that background on these characters, which is what I would say is one of the things this movie does lack. That's why I didn't like it the first time I watched it, because for all the things it does right with the horror, for all the things it does right with the suspense, the character development in this is non-existent. And so you just don't have any buy-in to these characters. You really don't give a shit about any of them. They're just there to get you from point A to point Z.
Do you mind if I kind of go on a sidebar for just a second?
Absolutely.
This movie reminds me a lot of the kind of suspense and the kind of horror that John Carpenter brings especially in it's on the tip of my tongue.
Halloween,
They
Uh,
live.
Ghost from
no,
Mars.
good one, but
Oh, not just a good one, an awesome one, sir.
Prince of Darkness.
Oh, okay.
Love it. It's just even in the Prince of Darkness, they had more character development than this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I get it. They're supposed to be normal people, but the problem of it is that you're putting normal people into these situations that just don't make any sense. I get it. He was a Vietnam vet. I get it. But I mean, anybody that's flown a helicopter knows that you don't polish off the better half of a bottle of whiskey before you go up.
Right.
You just don't do it. I don't care what kind of hat you have on.
Right.
Well, and if you think about it too, all these guys are in Antarctica.
Right.
If you're there, you have a reason for wanting to be there. Every one of these guys has probably got some kind of crazy, weird checkered past that puts them at the southern tip of our planet to hide from everybody else. You know what I mean? So there was so much potential to work with, and they did none of it.
That's true. That's true. And that's
Right.
one thing that really irks me about this film, because I love it. I do, but I also hate it. You know, I'm expecting Kurt Russell to go, call me Snake. Okay, whatever, dude. Just
It's a love-hate relationship.
it is a love-hate relationship. I love this movie because of its individuality. It tackles it's a monster flick that tackles a subject that just sends the chills up your spine, because here is this thing. You can't really say anything else about it. And its entire purpose in life is to just take you over. But so much more they could have done.
Right.
So long story short, I think Carter did great. Keith David did great. I think Wilford Brimley did great. I think the rest of the cast did great. I just hated Kurt Russell's character development. I think it was ridiculous. So, sorry.
No problem. All right, Joey, how about you? What things do you want to say about the characters?
Well, this would be the third movie that Kurt Russell would end up doing in a row with John Carpenter. 1 second. This would end up being the third movie that Kurt Russell ended up doing with John Carpenter. The first being an Elvis made-for-TV movie where he played Elvis, which I haven't seen yet. Then was Escape from New York, and then here he is doing The Thing, and he would go on to come back, as you know, in Big Trouble in Little China, and then the Escape from L.A. So these guys get along. I think they have. They in the director's commentary, they alluded to some of the fun they had in Juneau, Alaska, that they weren't going to elaborate on that. These guys are good buddies. So I think that's why he was cast, is because he made friends with the director.
Right.
I think his performance was fine, but out of all these average guys, he's the most handsome probably. But I don't know. I thought he did a pretty good job. Wilford Brimley stole the show. Seeing him flip out and get pissed off is something special. I don't think there was a bad performance amongst all of them. I think they all did a better than okay job, at least. Keith David was kind of like, I thought I remember him being, in the movie more, but he really doesn't get much to say until the later half.
Yeah.
So it's I like it.
I have to agree with you there, Joey. Seeing Wilford Brimley flip out, I've always seen him as like America's grandfather. He's been in he looked like an old man when he was in his 50s. It's just interesting to see him as a slightly younger man without that mustache, kind of flipping out, going completely crazy. Not something you would normally see in your atypical 80s, sitcom grandfather looking character. And I do like I like all the other actors. I think they did a great job performing in this. And I do like Kurt Russell as a 80s action hero. I think it was John Carpenter that kind of put him there with obviously this movie, Escape from LA, and Big Trouble in Little China. So I do see the flaws in his character, but I like seeing him as the hero. He's just got that leading quality hero look to him. He'll always be Jack Burton to me, no matter what movie he's in. So, sorry, Big Trouble in Little China's got a little place in my heart for me. So, and I don't think we'll ever get to it because I don't think it's in the book.
Uh,
That and They Live. Those both should be in the book. Both of those.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I am all out of bubblegum.
Well, anyway, back to the storyline. So, the dog's been running around the base, and finally someone says, "Clark, go put this dog in the shed, with the rest of the sled dogs." And of course, this is when we get a scene where every dog lover across America sees this and immediately questions being around their dog, because this is kind of where the key that you get that there's something wrong with this dog, because it just sits right in the middle of the kennel. All the other dogs are completely around it, and it's just sitting there staring. And it's kind of odd. Definitely, off-putting, very uncanny valley, because it doesn't look right to the human eye. And I don't know if it's just from the performance or if they like the way they swapped out the dogs for the special effects. And then of course the dog morphs. Just things are coming out of it. Its head splitting open, all kinds of craziness. I mean, we're talking like full gore that Tim had mentioned. I mean, this is like atypical horror movie, ick, ichor, you name it. Throw whatever adjective you want in front of it. It just makes you go, oh my gosh. And of course, Clark, he's going crazy. And then that's when our good buddy Kurt Russell pulls the alarm and runs out to see what's going on. And he immediately tells Childs to use a flamethrower to incinerate the creature. What did you guys think of the whole metamorphosis part of this? And Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you. What did you think of this whole sequence?
It's almost hard to watch because you feel so damn bad for the dogs. Like, it's just, those dogs are so beautiful, and you look at them, you're just like, oh my God, this is, as soon as they put that dog in that pen, you're like, nothing good's going to come from this. And it doesn't, it just goes really south really fast. And you just like, you almost don't even want to watch. It's just so sad. I don't know. Like, just the animal lover me is just mortified. It was probably it's probably a harder scene for me to watch than anything else in the movie. But, and then, yeah, that metamorphosis that thing takes, I mean, it's just, this is where the effects on this, I mean, they had a huge budget. This is like the biggest budget ever on special effects, I think. And man, did it pay off. Like, these guys just, hands down, it is messed up looking, hard to focus on. Just, yeah. Like they got their money's worth. It really is unsettling to watch that whole thing. And yeah, my second thought is like, he's like, bring the flamethrower. I'm like, where do these guys get a flamethrower? And not a flamethrower, but multiples. And they're not like,
oh yeah, these aren't like ad hoc flamethrowers like they had in Alien. Oh no, these are like professional military. You're like, you guys got flamethrowers in Antarctica? It's kind of
it's to help melt the ice, because
sure,
these bases were set up by the founding country's military. So
that's true.
A little bit of what I know about Antarctica. So here we're going to go off on a little bit of a tangent. So Antarctica cannot be claimed by any solemn nation, any sovereign nation. It is upon itself. So if you want to create a research facility, whatever country's military goes in there and sets the base up and then turns it over to scientific groups or contractors and stuff like that. And so obviously everything was set up, and those military grade flamethrowers, they were there to help melt the ice, maybe carve tunnels, do something along those lines. And that's where they got those flamethrowers. And that's the story I'm sticking to.
Yeah, and I looked at that. And you're not wrong, because I think the one Kurt Russell initially has is actually a commercial flamethrower that is actually for that purpose, like either burning weeds or melting ice. Because if you notice, the flame never comes that far off of it.
Right.
Not like a military grade one. So that's what I would expect those guys to have. But I mean, military grade flamethrowers are terrifying. You would never get me to strap one of them damn things on my back ever and fire one off. Not even like, let alone a war. But outside of war, if you're like, hey, you want to come over and check out my flamethrower? I'd be like, no, those things are just scary as hell. So I don't know, but I mean, it was cool that they had it and it served its purpose. But you're still like, would the government give them those things? Like they just don't hand them out to anybody. But it was cool, and thank God they had him because they're like, he's like, burn it. I'm like, hell's yes, burn it, burn it, burn it. So it's like it's so unsettling. You just want to make sure that that thing is gone and dead. Yeah. So yeah, it was a great scene, very unsettling and super sad because of the dogs.
Joey, how about you?
Well, when it slimes the other dog, like it literally squirts it, that is just gross. And then you get a shot of that dog later to just kind of, it got incapacitated by whatever the slime was on it. So I'm thinking later on with Blair, having done so much work doing these autopsies, he had residue on him. And I think it just waited for the right opportunity where he couldn't scratch it off or anything for him to, be sedated, fall asleep, etc. And it took him. So, like, it was starting to take that dog, and then later it would wrap it up or whatever, but it incapacitated the dog just by shooting itself on it. Like, it slimed the dog before Ghostbusters.
Right.
This was a good 2 years before Ghostbusters, and that dog got slimed.
I think he hit it on that one, Joey, because I think, didn't they say at one point towards the end, like, all you got to do is just get a little bit of this, like, just touch you, and it basically is going to, like, take you? I think that they alluded to that.
Fuchs said that he wasn't even comfortable anyone preparing his food. He said,
Yep.
we should eat out of cans.
Yep.
Yeah, and you watch Blair when he's doing that autopsy, and he's just got those little, like, lunch lady gloves on when he's doing it. Not even like really good gloves. Like I'd be like, no, you give me the ones that roll up my arm, like the Dawn dishwashing, gloves or whatever. So
Meanwhile, they should, we're
Yeah.
all sitting there thinking about like level 5 biohazard
Yeah.
suits.
yeah,
Yeah, he should have had a fucking hazmat suit on.
Well, that's also part of my love-hate with this movie because we started.
yeah. But is it's any worse at ET when you got those guys just walking in and they're just pulling off their hazmat suits when ET dies? Like, well, he's dead. Pull off our hazmat suits now. Yeah.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
Prometheus. All right, let's go out here. Ooh, look, Black Goo. Let's take off
Yeah.
our helmets and taste it.
Well, speaking of E.T., that's what tanked this movie at the box office, is that E.T. came out 2 weeks before The Thing, and everybody was still going to see the Happy Alien movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, no one likes mean aliens. We all want the lovey-dovey Carrie thing.
Well, I mean, let's face it. We don't have cute Disney Kurt Russell anymore, and we got a yellow ooze spewing alien. Who wants to see that? I mean, come on. And no Reese's Pieces to be seen anywhere. Yes.
Fun home.
We exchanged the Reese's Pieces for dog murder.
See, that's all Wilford Brimley had to do later on in the films. Phone home. Oh, never mind. He's just making a call. Forget it. Go ahead, man. You're good. Go ahead, Blair. You're fine.
I think that pretty much covers the entire dog transformation sequence.
Kind of.
And again, like you guys had said, Blair is the one that goes in and does an autopsy on the dog, and we see just how kind of crazy this creature is, and all the like weird shapes it takes. And Blair also, busts out the wonderful Apple IIe and does an analysis on its blood, and you get to see, some classic 1980s graphics about how the cells from the thing can like absorb the host cell, replicate it, and then spread and continue on. And that's when Blair kind of starts to get, paranoid about this whole thing, and he's writing in his journal and stuff, and
Which is why you kind of know at that point he hasn't been taken yet.
exactly, yeah. And that was kind of one of my questions later on is, at what point do you think that he got, taken over by the alien?
Prior to the dog scene, Matt, the dog was just kind of wandering around. First, it gives who is it? Fuchs? Who was it? That what's going on? Why is a dog here?
Right.
Under the table, and then it walks in on Windows and just kind of you see the silhouette of Windows just sitting on his bed.
I think it was Palmer. I think it got Palmer first because Vance Norris, he went to the site with the UFO and stuff. I think Palmer was the first to get taken by the dog in that scene where it walks in and you just see
the
someone
silhouette.
sit up from their bed.
Yeah, that's my theory too. Is I thought it was Palmer.
I thought it was Windows. It just looked like him, and the rest of them, because there's only one real time that dog was away. But so we go through the whole dog metamorphosis thing, and Wilford Brimley actually identifies it correctly. Is it's trying to digest. It's like spraying this digestive fluid onto the dog. The dog actually starts melting, and then later on, what you were talking about, Matt, is in his analysis, he's watching this one, I don't know what you want to call it, bad cell invade and take over this other one. And at that point, you've got to wonder, like, dude, did you ever really start thinking about maybe you? Because, like, you were elbow deep in these things.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing too, because like it says it makes a perfect copy, but I don't even think that they know they're a copy at that point. I think they just keep on trucking like they're the original, and they don't know it until they're threatened. And then the organisms that are making up their body go to defend itself right away.
Oh, kind of like an invasion of the. No, they knew they were. I don't know. I'm going to challenge that theory, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's just something I was thinking about because, I mean, he was elbow deep in it. And even when because by time further in the movie, when he starts going berserk, I don't want to go too far into it, but like at that point, I think we can all decide that he's probably done for. And you think he'd be cognizant of it, but like, because that whole organism's goal is to get out and keep replicating and kill.
Yeah,
And
but once the organism takes one of those people, though, it literally goes about it adapts and it assimilates all of their memories and their knowledge as well.
but why would
So
it? I don't want to get too far. Let's have this discussion a little further down.
okay,
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I think it's important that we wait.
Okay. Blair, sees the whole thing. He's making notes about it. He's doing the proper scientific thing and documenting it all. And of course, now he's starting to get the idea that okay, this is something that's not good. I mean, it could assimilate all life on Earth in a matter of years. And of course, the group then decides that they need to implement controls to reduce the risk of assimilation. So that's when they take the bodies and they put them into a storage facility. And of course, while only one of the gentlemen are left behind, Binnings, he gets attacked by one of the dead, what you assume is a dead body, and that's where we see the full what happens in the absorption and the assimilation of a person. And of course, when Windows shows up and he interrupts the process, and that's when McCready, after Binnings runs off, McCready ends up burning the Binnings thing out in the middle of the
you're right. I'm so sorry. I apologize. You're right. It was Norris. Yeah. Windows interrupts it. I apologize.
not a problem. And then the team also decide to imprison Blair, because after they burn Binnings, Blair, that's when he like totally wigs out. I mean, McCready sees him after he sabotages the helicopter, and of course that's when he runs in and discovers that Blair's now sabotaging the radio system. And I think that's kind of proof that Blair isn't the thing just yet, because he knows that if the thing gets out, it's going to assimilate everything. So I think this is still Blair as himself, and he's kind of fighting the thing that he might have got infected with. Just your thoughts, guys. Do you think at this time Blair is infected and wants to keep all the guys there, or is he more along the lines of trying to prevent this thing from coming out? And I'll shoot it over to you first, Joey.
I don't think Blair is taken by the thing until he's left alone in the work shed. And then when they come back and he's apologetic and says, I'm okay now, I think that he was the thing at that point.
Gotcha. Tim, your thoughts?
Okay, so this is a scene I was waiting to talk about this. But first, I have to say, when he was doing the computer simulation and you're watching those cells like overtake the other ones, are you guys hearing the asteroid music? Brum, brum, brum,
Yeah.
brum, brum, brum. That's all I could think of when I watched that. I'm sorry, I just had to throw it out there. It's what I thought about. But I think he's already the thing when he's busting up all the radio equipment. But I don't think he knows he's the thing yet. Because dude, he's been elbow deep in this crap by now. He's worn the lunch lady gloves. He's been elbow deep pulling crap out. There's no way this thing hasn't taken him already, and that's why I think you're not aware until you're threatened, and then once it's threatened, because every time it gets to a point where it thinks it's threatened, that's when it freaks out and it starts to like defend itself. But otherwise, I think it just lives in the host silently and lets it think it's who it is. So that's why I think he is the thing at that point, and then they lock him in the cabin because you don't see him after they lock him in the cabin. They hit him with a little bit of drugs to calm him down or whatever. So that's not really a threat because he knows he's not going to be wounded. And so I think later on that's just his way of being like, oh, I'm good now, guys. Let me back out. He's just the thing is trying to play a game a little bit with them or whatever. But and the funny thing I find is as we have this conversation from what I was reading online. This is the same thing the actors kept going through. It would keep delaying shots and the production because the actors would sit around and have these same like, well, no, I think the thing would act like this, or I think it would do that. So they're having the exact same discussions we are as they're filming the movie to try to determine how they should present this. So I think it's kind of entertaining that now that we're doing the podcast, we're doing the same thing. But nice. But I think there's no way that you put the lunch lady gloves on and then go, like you said, elbow deep into this thing like a turkey to pull out the giblets, and you're not like taken at that point because he had that goo all over him. And not that, but then he takes that pencil and he points to it and he's touching it, and then you see him in a scene later using the exact same pencil. I'm like, sorry, like if I'm touching dead ooey gooey monster with a pencil, it's going into the garbage, and I'm probably setting the garbage can on fire. Like there's no way.
Be that as it may. I mean, I've seen YouTube videos where people are doing stuff with pencils going, you need to, oh no.
Right. Well, that's their dirty little bastards, and that, yeah.
No. I said YouTube, not other tube.
But I don't know. I think he was the thing, or at least had been taken by that point, but he wasn't cognizant of it because it wasn't feeling threatened at that point. But I don't understand why it would let him destroy the radio. So maybe you're right. It's a 50-50 in my book, but
gotcha.
I just don't know how you get that far into that and then not become a thing.
It's an interesting thought, like he's such a perfect copy that he doesn't know he's the thing yet. It certainly does make you think twice about some of the interactions that the characters have. How about you, Geoff? You got a rebuttal on that?
Yeah. I don't think moving forward with the plot, I think that even though he was elbow deep in Lunch Lady Land with those gloves inside of the thing, I don't think he was taken yet. I don't think that he was taken by the thing until he was locked into the shed after his little freak out. And the reason is because the thing not only needs privacy to do what it does. So yeah, he did come up with that theory that, oh look, the cells invade. But I think it's got to be more than just what happened to him.
Yeah, but he's
like with just those little scratches.
He's chilling in his lab all the time though by himself, man.
Be that as it may. He has his little freak out because you got to look at it from a scientific standpoint. The thing, its purpose, it wants to progenate. It wants to infect everyone, and it wants to get out there and make multiple copies. It almost acts like a living, cognizant virus, so to speak.
Right.
So what it wants to do is get back to the mainland. It wants to get to South America or Africa or somewhere so that it can move forward. Why would it destroy the radios?
That's what I was curious about. Why would it destroy the helicopter?
So my theory behind that is the thing has to go through a process in order to go ahead and replicate. So I think that Blair wasn't taken until he was locked away.
But how was he taken then?
That's the whole point, though.
He had residue on him, and it was just sitting there dormant, like, on his skin.
That is true. It could have been the residue, because we saw it leaking earlier. Or it could have even potentially been, because this is the part of the movie that I actually start enjoying a lot, is this unknown. Is it the residue? Did someone come out and get him? You never know. And it's never answered. So to me, this is like when the movie actually starts to pick up and starts to become really, really good. This is where it pulls me in. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think he was taken until he's been locked in the tool shed for quite a little bit, and someone comes out. What? I'm okay now. I want to come inside. I want to come back in. I'll bet you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
like,
have
that's
rebuttal
exactly
for this,
what you would
sir.
expect the thing to say. All nice and calm and sweet, like, all he needs is a Werther's Originals, and he's your damn grandfather again.
Right.
All right. I have rebuttal for this, sir, but we have to wait for a few more scenes till I can try to reestablish myself and my theory.
Carry
All
on,
right.
Montesquieu.
All right. Well, the other thing that happens in this whole sequence too is Benning dies. We see him get absorbed and assimilated, and I think that's actually another good turning point in our story where we actually start to see the guys start questioning each other. And of course it's Dr. Cooper that comes up with a suggestion for testing for the infected, and that's by taking a cell and drawing blood from people and injecting it into the clean whole blood that they have and see if the interaction happens. And I think it was a great way to determine who could be infected. So of course they go back in, they get to where they store the whole blood, and they discover that it has now been destroyed. There's just blood leaking out of the cooler, the freezer, which I always thought it was funny. Is why would you have a refrigerator in Antarctica? You have the outside, but that's probably because you need to keep it safe. Do Eskimos need a refrigerator? I don't know.
Sir, have you not watched 30 Days of Night? That's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right, good point.
You don't leave food out outside your campsite because of bears. You don't leave blood outside your campsite because of vampires.
Gotcha. So yeah.
What about garlic?
Good repellent.
You got some well, I mean, unless you got some really, adventurous bears that like flavor, but
this is flavor country.
Well,
I got my cousin visiting from Nova Scotia. He's great up here.
They're really pointing fingers over who the two guys who'd have had access. But did they ever stop to think that the thing could probably, I mean, if he can build a fucking spaceship out of various unrelated parts, I think he could pick a lock.
Yeah.
Space lock picks.
Well, especially especially when you get the
it's-
spindly legs and stuff, you could probably get one of those little legs right into the padlock, and
But probably. I mean,
Yeah, he
it's
just felt it around and he unlocked it. He locked it right back up.
yeah.
I think the theory of him, whoever it was, stealing the keys holds more water. To be honest, I think it just very nonchalantly lifted it, went in there, did what it had to do, or you know what, it could have been Blair before he succumbed.
Could be, or it could have been what's his name, Norris. Because wasn't it it was suggested Norris take over command, and he's like, no, I can't do that.
He didn't want that gun because he didn't want to be seen as a threat.
Yeah,
Right. He wanted to. He was, and that's why I don't think the whole lying dormant thing holds water.
No, I mean, like it could not absorb it into Wilford Brimley's skin until it wants to, and it could just sit there on the surface and wait until he falls asleep. Is what I was getting at. Where like it's intelligent, even if it's at a small, tiny little bit of it is still smart. As far as God damn it, where was I going? As far as Norris rejecting that gun, I mean, that was a super high level of intelligence. The thing doesn't need a weapon to be dangerous. It just knows
doesn't.
that it's going to be interpreted as dangerous if he has a weapon. So
It's going to draw
like,
attention
I don't want
too.
that. Yeah, and I think he did copy Norris to a fault because I think it had a legitimate heart attack.
Well, that's one of the most. Sorry, I apologize if I'm talking out of turn.
it's okay.
That's one of the best parts, because remember in the beginning, Blair is sitting there, it's a perfect copy of a heart, lungs, liver, spleen. I mean, I can't do Wilford Brimley. I'm sorry. And I was trying to say it.
Diabetes.
You know, diabetes. If you
Eat
or
your
a
oat.
loved one have aliens inside of your body
You should eat some oatmeal to prevent that from happening.
or something, grow a mustache. You know. But one of the interesting parts about it, he was saying it's a perfect copy. So if Norris had a heart condition, it's sitting there copying everything about it. And if it's working under this body and that body decides all of a sudden to quit, the thing's kind of like, wait, what? I did what? Oh, crap. Great. I got one with a defective carburetor. Essentially, but it's kind of an interesting point. It's like he copied the thing did such a good job at copied a heart attack, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think what's actually more funny is that, and I think one of you guys brought this up already, the movie is doing exactly to us right now what it's supposed to be doing to the audience. Everyone's sitting around going, well, who is it?
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely part of where you get that Agatha Christie murder mystery, you know. Who is the bad guy in the room?
Right.
And
And
of
it's
course,
not as simple this time as Colonel Mustard in the library with a candlestick.
right.
Well, and the most infuriating thing too is that every time these guys separate, they're like, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here, and me and this other guy will stay together and we'll go here. It's like, no, you go in groups of 3 at all times, anywhere you go. These guys like split up all the time. Like, it's just like, let's break rule number 1 on any horror film scenario. Let's all split up, you know?
So
Yeah.
I need to go off on a tangent if that's okay with you guys.
Go ahead.
One of the things that drives me absolutely fucking bonkers about this movie is that John Carpenter is not a dumb man. So why would he allow plot holes in this? What pissed me off the most, okay, is when Child. You expect me to believe all of this voodoo bullshit, dude? Did you not just see the fused human man-dog thing outside?
Right.
Yes, we expect you to believe in that voodoo bullshit, dude. You just saw the thing explode out of a fucking dog. Sorry. John, what the hell are you doing, man? Why would you allow that shit to be written into your film? Yes, we expect you to believe it. Why wouldn't we, Child?
I think he was calling the test voodoo bullshit with the blood, burning the blood.
But it was that was beforehand, and then Child's the entire time is like absolutely resistant to everything.
Well, I think part of that is because I think his character, maybe character flaw, is that he doesn't respect authority. Because after the whole argument between Gary and, you know, who took the blood, who killed the blood, and Windows freaks out, and they manage to like take control away from the commander, and McCready takes control because he's like, okay, well, we need somebody with a cooler head, because, you know, immediately Child was going to try to say, oh, well, let me be in charge. But he
did.
I think his character he was a hothead that didn't respect authority, and I think that he played that character to a T.
He did.
That it was kind of like part of the whole going against everybody around him because he was that kind of a character.
I get it, but even characters. All right. One of the best lines in a movie that I love is from Dusk Till Dawn. What do you think those are? Well, Kate, you know what? I don't know about you, but those are vampires. And you know why? Because I don't fucking believe in vampires, but I know what I saw. And I looked out there and I saw fucking vampires. It's George Clooney.
Yes.
I mean, it was the best line because it's like, look, I don't believe in vampires, but I know what I saw, and I saw vampires.
I left blood outside the campsite. Now we have vampires.
See, we keep circling back to vampires. We need to do a vampire movie in here. And if anybody brings up Bram Stoker, I'm leaving. or there's never mind. But it's I get it that he's supposed to be the antagonist. That he is aside from the thing that his character is antagonistic. He's supposed to be going against it. But that kind of a plot hole is it's not just. I was trying to look it up all day to find out what's it called when an actor, when the writing does this, has the actor go, Now, let me get this straight. You expect me to believe that there's little green men? Dude, you just blew away 6 of them. Yes, we expect you to believe that. You were the sheriff. You went into town and you just shot 6 of these little green things. Yes, we expect you to believe that.
I think that's the summary of denial.
I think so, but it's kind of like it's like Child's. You just brought in the flamethrower, dude, and you watched a dog's head open up. Yes, we expect you to believe in that voodoo bullshit, but getting back to the blood. It's kind of like I personally think Blair did it before he succumbed.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on
No,
a
no problem.
diatribe there.
How about you, Joey? Any thoughts on the blood?
The thing picked the lock.
Okay. All right. Well, so we have now a change of command. McCready's now in charge because of the whole argument, and they decided that he'd take over, or he I wouldn't say volunteer, but kind of assumes control. And of course, he windows and nulls and Fuchs wind up he windows and nulls find Fuchs's burnt corpse, and they surmise that Fuchs must have committed suicide to avoid a simulation. And of course, Windows returns to the base while McCready and Nulls investigate McCready's shack. And it's interesting that they're like, well, there was a light on, but we never find out why that light was left on in the shack, because Nulls comes back after discovering McCready's ripped up clothes, and of course he cuts the rope and he leaves McCready out in the cold. What did you guys think of this whole sequence? I mean, it's just, in my opinion, it's another situation of, they're throwing more doubt on who anybody really is. Any thoughts on McCready being questioned as to whether or not he's a creature, an assimilated creature? I'll go to you first, Tim.
It just seems like kind of weak sauce for the plot. I mean, because they go out there and there's no explanation as to why the light's on or anything like that. And then he's just like, oh, I just cut him loose because I found his clothes, which that part I understand. And I guess that was what they were trying to lead towards, is like, oh, well, we went over there. I'd seen his clothes, so I left him cut the line so he couldn't find his way back. But that's only going to work if they're having a snowstorm. That's what those lines are for. It's like if you're having a whiteout, you can grab the line and find your way from one building to the next. So, dude, it's just dark. It's not a snowstorm, and the whole place is lit up. It's a base, so he's going to find his way back. That was kind of dumb in my mind. And again, them never covering why the light was on, it was such a weak plot point to get you to the ripped up clothes explanation. So, and although much like McCready, I'd be completely pissed by the time I got back. I'd be pissed off. But the thing that gets me too is he comes back and he's all frozen up looking, like his hands, you can tell like the way he's holding stuff because his hands are super cold. Dude, you were just in your quote unquote shack. Grab some more gloves and shit. Like all your stuff should be there. Like, I don't know, suit up. So for the little journey back, I thought that was weird too. That all of a sudden he's like frozen to the bone because apparently, I don't know, they got in the shack and the guy stole his gloves and ran away giggling. I don't know, but it was just
well, we know
weird.
for a fact that he certainly wasn't going for his chess computer.
Yeah, the chess computer was definitely done, and he was all out of Jim Beam. So, yeah, I don't know.
Was that what he was drinking, Jim Beam?
I think that's what that was. Is that
J&B whiskey or J&B Scotch? Whiskey.
Was it? Oh yeah, I guess it wasn't Jim Beam. You're right. It was J&B.
Yeah. Speaking of Jays, Joey, what did you think of Kurt Russell getting left out in the snowstorm?
Well, it all was part of the thing's plan. Is to create suspicion about McCready because it saw him as a threat because he was the most suspicious of other people. So let's take everyone's thought process and who's a threat to me. Let's make them think he's the thing. And it was a good plan. It made a play. It's smart. I mean, again, the fucking thing builds flying saucers. It can think to frame somebody. It can pick a lock. It can probably do a whole hell of a lot of shit we couldn't even imagine because it has all this basically the thoughts and processes is it's taken from planet after planet, and it's got a wealth of knowledge.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting to kind of think, what is the thing thinking? Um,
And
and
it
of
was
course,
learning more as the dog. It hung out in the common areas because it was listening to everybody at that point. Um, you know, you could say that it was learning English because it hadn't taken an English speaking person yet. But, as you watch the prequel, there were English speaking people for the purpose of the audience. And it was just a few of the Norwegians didn't speak a lick of English. So chances are some of the Norwegians spoke some English. So the dog was listening to them. It was trying to figure out, well, what's going to be my play? How am I going to do this?
right. It was scheming and planning. Um, so of course that brings us back to McCready, and him being questioned as to whether or not he's the creature. He does manage to get back inside the base, and he does a smart thing by doing the old Mexican standoff. He's got a roll of dynamite, and he's got the flamethrower like right there, and he's like, "Okay, hey, I'll blow us all to kingdom come."
Yeah,
Um,
he's like, light me up. Go ahead.
yeah,
'Cause you're going to die.
uh, and I think that's kind of neat that he's able to do all this, and in the process, Norris has a freaking heart attack. Because again, as we find out, um, he's a creature, he's a thing. Uh, Cooper tries to save his life, and he's over there on top of Cooper with the defibrillators. And I gotta say, this is probably the coolest whole death sequence in the movie. And it's with when Cooper's holding those defibrillators, and he's like on top of on top of Norris, and he hits him with the pads, and he yells clear, and he hits him again, and then he goes to hit him the third time, and like his whole body just opens right up, and there's this huge maw of a mouth that just clamps down on his arms, and like literally severs his arms right at like his shoulders. And I just think that is the craziest thing I've ever seen in any movie, especially something with this kind of graphics in the 80s, no less. And I just gotta ask you guys, what did you think of that whole sequence? And I'm gonna turn it over to you first, Geoff. What was going through your mind when you seen that?
Confusion, to be honest with you.
How so?
Why I couldn't figure out why the thing was deciding to be attacked or attack out. Um, it was smart. It knew that they were just trying to restart the heart. Or did it? I mean,
No,
I
it
don't
was
know.
dead. They didn't know.
Yeah,
Well,
my thought was I don't think it knew that he was trying to be saved. I think it was a involuntary reaction, like when you to parallel this. So my father-in-law went in for heart surgery. When he woke up, he didn't know, he was completely delusional. He didn't know where he was at, and he came up swinging. Like there was nurses like holding him down because the classic flight or fight sequence. So I think
right.
when Cooper hit him with those defib pads, it like shocked or jolted the cells like back into a resuscitative point, and that's when it kind of like opened up and it was like, okay, I'm being attacked. I need to do something.
Okay, I
I'm gonna
can buy that.
I'm gonna buy that as well, man. That's a very
buy
good
that.
explanation. Yeah.
I can buy that. But I love that sequence. I loved it because here it is, and you're sitting there guessing. He's already shot Clark right in the head. And the next thing you know, they're sitting there, they're giving Norris CPR and clear, boom, there goes his arms. Chest cavity caves right in. It's just a gigantic pair of jaws. I think it was wonderful. I love that scene. And then they all, go after it. And then it comes up to our favorite part. I think everyone here's favorite part.
Yes.
The most iconic part of this film.
Lay it on us, Geoff. What is it?
They're sitting there flaming Norris, making Norris kebabs. And what happens to Norris's head? It starts to pull away and separate and grow legs and crawl under the table. and then it grows eyes. And that part as a kid just made me shit. I was like, what the? Oh my God. You can't kill it. It was terrifying. I mean, I just never wanted to see a severed head. I'm afraid it's going to start growing legs crawling around.
Yeah. It definitely keys into that whole body horror feeling when you watch that sequence.
It does. But the coolest part about it is that remember that earlier on in the film, I think it was Blair, and there was a couple other people talking about how this thing just assimilates everything, every living creature. So it chose to go to a smaller version of something it assimilated a long, long time ago. Because it had been sitting in the ice on Earth for a couple 100,000 years, right?
Right.
Well, it's going to survive any possible way it can. And if it needs to, it's just going to go ahead and separate part of itself and turn itself into like a little bug or some kind of six-legged, beanstalk eye looking head crab walker thing.
It was
Right.
like half spider, half Gary the snail from SpongeBob.
And so it's kind of like, you're just like, yep. And who was it? Was it Windows, or who was it? Goes, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? What the hell's going on now?
He said, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!"
You gotta be fucking kidding me. Because they're all
the
watching
thing
this
said
red
that. He was the thing.
That's right, he was. And that was such a great. See, this is, as I said, that's right. This is where shit starts to pick up for me.
But see,
Because
now the thing though is saying that he's like, what the fuck, So you got a thing seeing another thing do that, and he's like, what the fuck? So I'm telling you, I'm not 100% sure that the person's cognizant that it's the thing.
He copied
But
Palmer
the
that
thing is
well.
cognizant is the thing.
Yeah.
Because remember, with Norris, it's trying to avoid detection. It just wants to go out there into the masses.
Was it Palmer that said, what the fuck was that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, wait, who was it? Palmer?
Yeah. Because after that whole sequence and they before I
They're
go
testing the
too
blood,
far,
yeah.
Yeah, but before we go too far into that, Tim, did you have any thoughts or comments on Cooper's death or the head coming off of Norris?
Yeah, I mean, that's the most fucked up. That's one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen. That whole head just kind of like just coming down. It's like kind of slide down the skull, and then like a oozy, I don't know what that was, goo to the floor. I mean, it was just like you're already grossed out by watching that head fly down there, and then you're like, oh, dude, that was so gruesome. Like, it's just disgusting. Oh, shit, it's sprouting legs now. Oh, eye stalks. And it's like, it just keeps going. You're just like, it just is a scene that keeps on giving. So super well done, man. Super well. I mean, on the grand scheme of horror things, man, yeah, this scene fires on all cylinders for me. It's just like, oh my God, every time you think it can't get any worse, it does. So it was really cool to watch, and just I think that sums up at the end when that thing's running out the thing, and he's like, "What the fuck?" It's just like, yeah, we're all like, "What the fuck?" So
The character said basically what everybody in the audience is thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I should have almost broke the fourth wall on that one. Like, what the fuck?
They all look at the screen. Just broke the fourth wall. Went,
Yeah.
Really?
How about you, Joey? What was your thoughts on this whole sequence?
It was partially ruined for me because, again, I saw this late, and I think at that point Todd McFarlane had done a Norris action figure that included the transformation. So
Gotcha.
I knew something was going to happen with that character, and I'd seen the toy, and that was kind of a little bit of a spoiler for me for the movie. But it was still something to behold, and I don't think I'd picked up on the whole. I mean, it had two heads. One erupted from it with the head, the face of Norris like snarling, and then there was the original Norris head that detached and turned into,
Spider Norse.
The arachnid. Yeah. So it was. I mean, we don't see anything like that again until the very end. I mean, you see 3 things where it's a combination with the dogs, with Norris, and then in the final shots of
Right.
the thing.
Well, you do get the precursor of the multiple body thing they first find. So there's at least 4 weird shaped things.
Yeah, the stalks from the dog pen too are pretty messed up. All those little stalks that keep shooting up, like the individual ones. Like each one of them are kind of weird.
Which is mirrored in the crab head of Norris.
Yeah,
or spider head.
I think actually one of the actors suggested to John Carpenter that they do the whole stomach opening and biting off a man's arms and head thing. And he was like, "That's brilliant." And I think he put it into the film. So
yeah, it was pretty freaky seeing that. But because of the sequence and what happens, that's where McCready gets that idea. He hypothesizes that the Norris thing demonstrated that every part of the thing is an individual part of the life form. Its parts are not only parts, but like almost like a hive mind sort of. And so it has its own like survival instinct. So he proposes his testing the blood samples from each of the survivors with a heated piece of wire. And of course, as each man is restrained, he's then forced to shoot Clark after Clark lunges at him with the scalpel. So all that happened before Clark was still alive. It wasn't until after Norris's spider walk that we see Clark get shot in the head. So of course, McCready runs the test. He gets. Now this is the other thing that kind of gets me is so they cut everyone's thumb, pours it into a petri dish, but they're using the same knife.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I'm pretty sure at this point you're not too worried about anything else going on. I'll take a little hepatitis or whatever over the thing.
Well, not even that. So okay, let's say I'm not a thing, but Tim's a thing. We do the blood test. I use the knife on Tim, and then I wipe the knife off and I use it on myself. Aren't there blood cells on that knife?
Yeah, didn't you
Am
think
I
about
now
that?
infecting myself to become a thing? That was my point.
They might have all been the thing at the end. You're right.
So yeah, and of course McCready proves his point. He proves that the heated wire. He passes the test, and then he checks on Clark. Clark passes the test. Cooper passes the test, and then they do Palmer, and of course Palmer doesn't pass the test. And that's where again we get another crazy thing, and you see all those guys just shouting and screaming, "Get me off this thing!" And Palmer's breaks free of his bonds, and he then like grabs windows, and McCready is like trying to like set off the
flamethrower.
Yeah, I say, the thing that shoots fire.
The kerosene-based flamethrower.
Exactly, because you can hear go. I was like, there's a lot of tension and stuff going on in that scene. What was going through your guys' minds when all this was happening? And I'll go throw it over to you first, Tim.
Okay, so watching that scene, this is where I'm going to throw down thrice on you, Geoff. So here we go. But before we do that, I was positive.
You expect me to believe any of that voodoo bullshit?
I do, and I'm going to show you why too, because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking Gary is definitely the thing, because I swear to God that it was Liam Neeson and he just didn't get him quite right when he tried to form him up, because I just like that's Liam Neeson, but he did the thing fucked up. He didn't get him right. Does he look like Liam Neeson? Everybody, or not Liam Neeson? I'm sorry, Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen.
Okay.
He does look like Leslie.
Does
Nielsen.
he look like? Yeah, it's like shit. I think you got Leslie Nielsen wrong. Yeah. It just threw me off the whole show. I'm just like, fuck, that's Leslie Nielsen. But no, here's what I'm going to throw down. Here's where I'm going to throw down. So you've got Palmer, who knows that he's the thing, supposedly, according to you guys. And he knows he's about to be tied up and tested. So why, if he's cognizant that he's the thing, at that point would he allow that to even happen? Why wouldn't he just go all hell of a thing of beast on them and just start trying to eliminate everybody in the room? Like, this is the part I don't understand, because he allowed himself to be tied up. He knows he's going to be discovered. So why would he allow all that to happen? I still stand by, I don't think Palmer knew that he was the thing. And so he's like, yeah, no, tie me up, go ahead. I mean, they all kind of were reluctantly tied up, but still, like the thing, anytime he's backed into a corner, it flips out. Hey, sorry, I had to sneeze. He flips out, immediately anytime it thinks it's threatened. So it knows it's in imminent danger and it's about to be discovered. So I have no idea, if it knows it's the thing, why it would allow itself to be tied up and put in that position, why it would not just lash out immediately and try to attack McReady and everybody else in that room to try to survive. So that's my final throwdown on my theory as to they might not always be cognizant that they are the thing. Because I think he willingly let them do that. Under duress, of course, but still, because he's like, I'm not the thing, so let him go ahead and test my blood. So that's my theory in this one. And
that's your theory. You're sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it because, it doesn't until they test the blood, and then he goes all ape shit and starts coming up off that couch. And unfortunately, Leslie Nielsen is sitting there like, get me off the couch, get me off this couch. Oh yeah, at that point, Gary is not too happy that he's sitting right next to him, still tied up, and they can't set one on fire without setting the other one on fire. So it's a really bad situation for him.
Yeah, they didn't think it through.
Yeah. So what do you guys think now? With me presenting this as my final piece of evidence, do you think I have any merit, or are you still going to poo-poo on my theory?
I'm going to poo-poo on your theory.
I knew you would.
I'm going to take your theory and I'm going to school it.
Oh, okay. Lay it down on me here, sir.
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to school anything. So I wouldn't even know how to school it to begin with. But
no high school. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure where that's coming from. So the thing, remember, every part of it is individual. We agree on that.
Yes.
Right.
It's capable of breaking itself apart, as we saw with Norris's head. Norris's head spider crab thing.
Correct.
It's not. It's not trying to draw attention to itself. That's exactly why he's not jumping up. It doesn't know what else and who else has been affected. It's not like we're watching The Last of Us here, where the tendrils of this
red moss.
This fungus is going to come out of people's mouths. This thing doesn't know who else is infected. As a matter of fact, all it cares about is itself getting out. So it's going to draw as little attention to itself as possible. Now think about it. Got guys with flamethrowers. It knows for a fact that if it starts acting up and acting the fool, it's gonna happen. So why not just sit there and hope that somebody else who's infected gets tested first?
Sure, but if it knows if I offer you two things, Geoff, I'm going to put you in this horrible scenario, and it's going to put you in imminent danger. And in one of these scenarios, you are free to move about, and in the other scenario, I'm going to tie you down and incapacitate you. And then from those 2 points, you will still have to face the same scrutiny. Would you not rather be unbound? Or if you knew being bound would put you at such a bad disposition that you may not survive this, would you not lash out before you were bound to try to save yourself rather than be bound and then be like, I probably won't get out of this because even though I'm a bunch of individual cells, like I'm still going to be tied down. I'm going to have to like break free of this binding.
Oh, at that point, the thing doesn't care. Because here's the thing. At that point, the thing doesn't care because remember, like we talked about, the thing itself is a weapon. You know, it's not really concerned with it's dangerous enough on its own. It knows how to lash out. So I don't think it's really caring whether or not it gets discovered. Well, I'm not. All right, let me take that back. Let me try and rearrange my thoughts here. I don't think it's really worried about being tied up. I don't think it being the thing sees being tied up as that much of a threat. I think it is looking at survivability. It's got people with flamethrowers. It's got people with guns around it. When it's in, is it Palmer's body? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. It's trying to do its best to just simply blend in and hope it doesn't get caught. And one means certain death, which is act out or try to get out of it. And the other half is maybe I won't get discovered.
All
Maybe
right.
maybe I've infected, maybe another part of this being that is what it is has infected somebody else and they'll get discovered. Maybe something will happen that they'll give up on trying to discover this, doing the blood test. I mean, the thing doesn't know. It's highly intelligent. It assimilates everything about these people, including their patients, and it also studied us as a species. So it does know that we have weaknesses, and just like I want to come inside now. I'm ready to come back inside. It's appealing. What's it appealing to? It's appealing to their human nature. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's being so manipulative that it's trying to put itself in the eye of the hurricane, going, there's a chance they might not discover me, and I'm okay with that.
You know,
All
I
right.
just
Let's throw
realized
down. Let's let Matt and Joy throw down on what they think about this. I want to hear what their thoughts are.
I'm actually kind of curious too.
The situation that they put each other in, Clark felt threatened by McCready and tried to kill him, and McCready killed him in self-defense. And when they test Clark's blood from his body, Child says, well, that makes you a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of like, he just moves on, and it's just like, yeah, he murdered Clark. Even though it was in self-defense, he killed him.
yeah.
So it's like the thing's little plots are panning out. He didn't have to defend himself against everybody. Like they turned on each other.
My theory is, so the thing is kind of like the James Bond of the alien world. You know, he's going to use subterfuge. He's going to play the long game. And even if he's aware that he's Palmer or he's not aware that he's Palmer, the cells inside are going to be like, okay, we're just going to hang loose because we are the toughest thing in this room. Yeah, he's got a flamethrower, but if I'm tied up, I can still transform. I mean, Norris's body just opened up as a huge maw and just chomped off of Cooper's arms. So I'm thinking that if Palmer knows that he's a thing, he knows that he could kill McCready from a short distance away. That's my thought process.
Yeah, and he ends up killing one of them because the flamethrower, I don't know if it's like a lighter where you have, the lighter open for too long and ain't got a light. It fucks up. He doesn't get to burn him like he thought. And
Right.
it's a good thing because he would have probably burned the other two guys on the fucking couch.
Yep.
Also true.
All right.
So-
I admit defeat. Then I've been KO'd.
Well,
But in the
now
best
that
possible way.
now that Palmer's been taken care of, Windows winds up getting killed and gets infected, and of course, McCready burns his body, and they wait. They're like, "Well, let it burn, and then finally they put it out, and then they take all the bodies and they burn them in the out in the snow, and then they decide that okay, McCready, Gary, and Knowles will go test out Blair, and they leave Childs behind, which again, classic, horror movie trope. Why don't they all just go? Why leave one guy behind? I mean, yeah, they make the thing of we'll guard the base. Well, if they know that the only living thing that's stuff around them anymore is Blair, and they're gonna go test, why don't they all just go? Thoughts on this? Why they didn't all just go? I'll shoot over you first, Joey.
None of their ideas have been perfect, and they're kind of making it up as they go. And I think they did tell him, like, as a caveat, if such and such happens, blow the place. But it's,
True.
At the end of the day, like, a good story isn't, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. You say, and they think of this, but this happens. There's buts. There's
Right.
more buts than ands. And the plans they have don't go according to plan. And they're about to discover an empty woodshed. And that is probably, other than the transformations, this is probably the most eyebrow-raising moment of finding out how sophisticated the thing is.
Right. Tim, your thoughts on the whole sequence of them leaving Childs behind to go test Blair?
I think I kind of covered that earlier, where it's just like, dumb, 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 dumb. It's just, yeah. I mean, it's just, it's easy. It's easy writing, I guess, But there's a certain point where you're like, look, we know the three of us are not infected. We should not let each other out of eyesight. Like, I just don't know. Joey's right. They've made a lot of mistakes. There was 12 of them. They've made 9 mistakes so far. Seems like the last 3, you're going to be like, let's not make that mistake anymore. We should all
Right.
stay inside of each other. But again, where Joey, is quoting the South Park guys, I will quote Joey. If they did everything smart, then there wouldn't be a good movie. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's still my favorite quote of all time. If the characters always did everything that was smart, then there wouldn't be a movie or a TV series, because it wouldn't be that entertaining. So, I think that just to drive plot, you have to have these guys just do some unbelievably dumbass shit. So,
Gotcha. Good point. You got to keep the plot moving. Speaking of keeping the plot moving, so Jeff, what did you think of this whole the whole sequence of the three guys?
I totally agree with Jim or with Tim.
Okay.
It's just a plot device to keep things going, because it's exactly what he said. It's like, look, you guys, your track record for making smart decisions. Let's face it, up until now, it really hasn't been too hot. Why are you separating? And it's analogous to, that commercial that's going around. That's kind of funny. The teenagers, hey, let's get in a running car and leave.
let's go in that shed with all the chainsaws.
Yeah, let's go hide in the shed with the chainsaws. It's kind of like, you see it coming and you're just like, all right, whatever.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, of course, the guys the guys then show up to the shed to test Blair, and they see that Blair's gone. It's, the big eye raising moment. And of course, they find a secret passage, and underneath the shed, they find a tunnel where Blair's been busy. He built himself a UFO, flying saucer. You call it what you will, spaceship, space shuttle, out of like the broken helicopter pieces. So this thing has got some serious intelligence. And of course, they decide that, hey, you know what? We can't let Blair get away. Can't let this thing, get out. So they decide to blow up the whole damn place. So we get a neat, maybe 5-minute sequence of them setting up charges around the base, after investigating wherever, the generator room, all this stuff. And we see Blair show up. And I got to say, seeing him take out Gary with his hand, just putting his hand right up to Gary's face and his fingers going like into the skin and then dragging Gary's body away, that was probably some of the creepiest stuff I've seen in a while. What did you guys think of this whole showdown with Blair and the three guys? And I'll go to you first, Joey.
The face fingers freaked me out when I first saw it. I didn't know anything about that happening. When you see it coming and then, watching it in 4K and I know it's going to happen, the effect did look a little more fake, but it's still fun. It just, it wasn't as impressive when you know it's coming and you're kind of analyzing it as it happens.
Tim, your thoughts?
For me, I was sitting there watching it, and I'm thinking, like, is this guy Blair, or is it like Tim the Toolman Taylor? Like, he's down there, building the Benford garage. He's got the little Craftsman toolbox down there, and so, like, I mean, it was the nicest little, like, impromptu, snow fort garage I've ever seen in my life. It's almost nicer than my garage, so it was kind of weird. Like, he's been busy. I'm like, yeah, apparently he's running a shop down there. It's a chop shop for spaceships or something going on, but yeah, I don't know. It was just. I don't know. It was a little weird how perfect that was. And, the guy had so little time and he managed to do all that. It's kind of crazy. But, and then again, like I said, the showdown just, I wasn't really surprised at that point with the whole finger thing and kind of pulling them away and stuff, because, I mean, we've seen this thing morph and do all kinds of weird crap. So, and compared to what we've seen in the other scenes, that's pretty tame by that point. I mean, after you watch a head turn into a spider, you got nowhere else to go but down after that, for the most part, in my book.
Geoff, thoughts on it?
I liked it. I think it demonstrated the sheer power of the thing. Aside from that, I don't know. It's a good question. I think it's interesting. I think that scene just it really defines it. It really defines the sheer power of the thing. And Tim's right about the whole garage thing. It's like, where the hell did this guy find the time to do that? He hasn't been by himself all that long, but then they decide to destroy the camp. And I think I understand why they elect to destroy the camp. It's just kind of interesting, but
right. Well, then we get the final showdown. Blair manages to kill Knowles and Gary, and we get the final showdown with McCready. And the Blair thing grabs the detonator and pulls it away from McCready. So McCready conveniently has a single stick of dynamite that's still lit, and he manages to just throw it just right to set off the rest of the charges and blow up the whole damn place. And we get a shot of McCready just kind of like slowly stumbling out of the fire, and sits down, and that's when Child shows up, and they're both exhausted, and McCready asks him, where'd you go? And Child claims that he got lost in the storm while chasing after Blair. And of course, they both sit down there, and they're like, okay, well, you could be a thing, or well, you could be a thing. And they just kind of like sit there and slowly freeze to death while they share a bottle of Scotch whiskey, thus ending our film. I gotta say that was the ending was kind of, I don't want to say anticlimactic, but I was kind of hoping for a happier ending. What did you guys think of the ending? And I will go ahead and throw it over to Tim first.
Two thoughts on it. The first one is, that is the longest burning short wick piece of dynamite I've ever seen in my entire life. I swear it had like the stubbiest little wick on it, and that thing must burn for like 10 minutes. He's just holding it, drops. He has enough time to like kind of look around, do that cool little rollover thing, grab it, whip it. It's just like, oh my God, like dynamite burns way quicker than that, like wicks do, like cannon wicks. So it's just like, oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. But past that, I enjoyed the ending that you don't know which one of them is not, or could be the thing, until Matt, you pointed out the whole scalpel thing. And now I know in my heart of hearts, they're both the thing. There's no doubt now in my mind that they are both the thing, because they've exposed themselves by using like a junkie with a dirty needle, a dirty scalpel between them. So, yeah. So now I'm like, they're frozen, and somebody's going to find them, and this is going to start all over again. That's my now working theory since you pointed it out to me. So I kind of enjoyed the ending, and now it's a little more lackluster because I feel like they're both the thing, and there's no question of it.
Gotcha.
He was just wiping it on his fucking shirt or something between people, wasn't it?
Yeah, he wiped it like in his pants or something else.
Yeah. Yeah, they were definitely watching hazmat, protocol when they were doing that for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like it's like, dude, you all you've been doing is carrying around this bottle of JB with you. You have alcohol with you everywhere, and you're holding a flamethrower. Like, how hard is it to like sterilize it in between cuts or whatever? Like, it's just all the ingredients are there, but it's like, nah, you know what? Levi's just fine enough. Let's just wipe it off, go for the next cut.
It's okay that all the scientists in the place have already said, well, this thing does great at mimicking people, and and all it does is eat some cells.
Yeah,
that's okay. I'll call me Snake. I'll wipe it on my cheek.
Yeah.
Right.
Eat canned food, but don't worry about any kind of blood protocols at all. You don't have to worry about that in the least.
We'll eat canned food. But
what about you, Joey? What'd you think of the end sequence?
I loved seeing the thing no longer has a place to hide. He's like, I'm just gonna go head on. And we had to wonder how strong it was to dig out that tunnel and put that incomplete UFO together. But now we see it just literally just tunnel under the floorboards, like a train, and it's just immensely powerful. And I think it's those three guys, it just took all the body mass and put them together very quickly. And it's just trying to Hulk out and intimidate and kill. It's no longer, it's no longer hiding. And it wasn't exactly the best plan because he got blown up. And if nothing else, like McCready would definitely be deaf after that explosion because he might have been far enough away that he wasn't going to get too concussed. But I don't think I think he'd be bleeding out of his ears.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I
would agree.
It was like the snow version of Dune. It was like the snow worm.
Geoff, how about you? Final thoughts on the end sequence?
I loved the end sequence. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, I believe the end sequence kind of saves the movie because, again, I'm going to be harsh on this because you guys know I love my science fiction. And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's plot holes and shit writing. Beg your pardon. I liked it because it did not provide closure. And I like that. I like the fact that it did not provide closure. Are they both the thing? Are they not? What happened to Childs? Why did Childs run off? Where the hell was he? Is McCready the thing? Oh, they've killed everyone. They're just kind of hanging out, drinking whiskey now, going, all right, what do we do now? I kind of like that.
Yeah, I was hip on that ending as well.
It doesn't give you any closure. There's no closure whatsoever. Is the thing still alive? Is it dead? It's like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of this Tootsie Pop? We're never going to know. And I kind of like that.
Gotcha.
I think it was the best ending they could have given this. So
it does leave it open for a sequel
or a prequel.
Yeah,
because that's I think that's
2011.
Yeah, I think 2011 is really kind of a prequel, right, Joey?
Yeah, they call it The Thing, but it's very much about the Norwegian crew. But because it's an American movie, they throw a shit ton of Americans in there, and they speak primarily English. I would have been totally fine with it being a little heavy on the Norwegian and having a lot of subtitles, but I don't think that they dared marketing a movie like that. And they do a lot of interesting things in the prequel, and there was a studio pushback, but basically the concept in the prequel that gets stolen for another movie, the Future War, is that the Thing was a prisoner, and that they did encounter an alien body of something that was transporting the Thing. But I don't know why they didn't like that, but maybe it looked a little too Star Trekky. But instead, they just painted over it with whatever the engine's like weird rainbow kaleidoscope like engine core or something like that. Instead, is they painted over the alien body. Maybe they felt it was too much, a little bit like the movie Alien in that way. But the movie The Future War steals that, and the creatures in that movie are revealed to be from outer space, and they were prisoners who escaped after a crash landing long, long ago.
Gotcha. Yeah,
The other
that's like a standard sci-fi trope in a lot of movies. Sorry,
The other
Tim, what
thing
were you
I
gonna say?
think is cool about the ending too is that so we get to watch them blow all this base up, right? That's actually the base that we get to see at the beginning of the movie. The Norwegian base is the blown up American base at the end. So they just
Yeah.
instead of building two bases, they just reused the whole base
They
and then
redressed
filmed
the set.
redressed it into the Norwegian base. So I thought
Nice.
that was kind of really cool that they did that.
All
I
right.
didn't realize they did that.
Yeah.
I only knew it because the director's commentary revealed it.
Gotcha.
Cool. Well, that then takes us to that's the end of the movie. That takes us to our death clock. So gentlemen, this movie clocks in at an hour and 49 minutes. And of course, we've been talking for an hour and 55 minutes. So just a little over the full runtime of the movie. I'm gonna ask Joey first. Is this movie worth time off your death clock?
Without question. If you become a Thing fanatic, watch the prequel. Do not watch that first. Watch the 1982 remake, because it is a remake of The Thing from Another World. Which if you're a Thing fanatic, you'll want to watch that too. They just had to change the story up because they had a big plant, Frankenstein-like plant monster guy. But there's things from that original Thing from the Another World that are in this. The block of ice, for instance. They're both thawed from a block of ice. You can see The Thing from Another World being watched on the television in John Carpenter's Halloween. That's how much he loved it. It's like, did he know he was going to be remaking it just 3 years later? I don't know. But he put it in Halloween. And I think it's one of Carpenter's best films. I think it's one of his favorite. And I think it's going to keep finding new audiences, just like it did, after its theatrical run. It didn't succeed there. It succeeded later, and I think it's going to continue to succeed. They made a video game sequel. Spoiler alert, McCready lives. And people are now nostalgic about that 2-3 generations ago video game sequel, that it's getting an HD remake. So The Thing lives on. It's hard to kill The Thing, and waste some time on it.
Nice. All right, Geoff, I got a pretty good idea, but is this worth your death clock?
Yes, it is. And I'm going to justify that by saying it's still well-written science fiction. And it also brings up a very visceral fear that people have of losing oneself, similar to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. One of the things that we humans hold as something very dear to us is our individualism. So when you look at aliens assimilating people, similar to the Borg or to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the thought of losing oneself is a terrifying concept for us. Is The Thing worth your death clock? Absolutely. Take the time. I've got some beef with the plot writing and the acting, but that's not going to take away from the science fiction aspect of the fact that this is an incredible story. Watch it. It's worth it.
All right.
Footnote, did I fuck up and refer to Chris Pratt's movie The Tomorrow War as The Future War?
Yeah,
I think I might have.
so.
Yeah, so that The Tomorrow War is where you get to see the full-fledged stolen explanation of the alien spaceship.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay.
See, I thought you were referring to the Forever War, the book. And I was like,
By
oh, I didn't
Joe
even know they...
Heidelman.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even know they made a movie out of that shit.
All right, Tim, how about you? Is this movie worth your death clock?
I'm usually a huge John Carpenter fan. I mean, he makes 3 of my favorite movies: Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, and They Live is absolutely my favorite all-time movies. And I came into this fully prepared to just put a big steamer on it and like, turn it down. But because I was just so underwhelmed the first time I seen it. I'm not gonna lie. But the second time around, if you can get past the poor character development, which is what turned me off about it the first time, and enjoy it for the suspense film that it is, and the really messed up horror aspect of it, if you're into that, yeah, I can see needing to watch it at least once. It's worth it for the suspense sci-fi story aspect of it. I still don't think I'll make it one of my top 10 sci-fi movies of all time, but I can see the appeal, so yeah, you should watch it. It's worth your death clock at least once. If you like Joey, it's one of those you should watch it over and over again.
Well, it looks like it's yeses across the board, because I too agree that this is worth your death clock. Mostly because it has a lot of classic science fiction tropes to it. You got a base under siege. You've got questions as to who is the real alien in the room. It's also got some classic body horror to it. You see appendages falling off of bodies, and you see whole bodies opening up. I mean, this has got some scary horror stuff to it, some science fiction stuff to it. And like Tim, I like John Carpenter movies. Big Trouble Little China, Kurt Russell and John Carpenter team up. Those kind of movies just kind of suck me in. So yeah, I would say definitely worth your death clock. All right, gentlemen. Well, tonight we do not have any mail, but I do want to thank all those people that have been following us on YouTube. We've got quite a few listeners out there. Thank you so much. Folks, if you want to let us know what you think of the show, email us at mamreviewpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear about you, hear what you think. We'll read your email right here on the show. Check us out. Write us in. Let us know what you think. Okay, guys. Well, aside from The Thing, what you watching?
Well, I have officially stopped watching Bad Monkey. My Apple subscription is going to expire. The series should have ended 2 episodes ago. I do not predict a second season. So the Vince Vaughn show's gone on too long, and I'm not going to pay $10 to watch the final episode. So I was watching Bad Monkey, and it started off pretty good, but now they're just stretching it the fuck out.
Geoff, how about you? What are you watching?
I don't know why all of a sudden cats got my tongue. I'm sitting there like, yeah, I knew those. I was like, what am I watching? Ugh. I have actually been watching a show called The Terror. It's on Netflix, and it's about a British expedition trying to find a passage through the north in the 1800s. And but actually just kind of stopped watching it, to be honest with you guys. It just kind of fizzled out. It lost some steam. It just kind of got a little bit ridiculous. So
Gotcha.
But that's what I've been watching lately. And as I said, I'm a little bit hard to please sometimes when it comes down to the whole thing. So,
Wow.
The movies, the TVs,
the movies and the shows, yes. So
Geoff, we like to call that a senior moment on the middle-aged movie review podcast. So.
Thank you. I think. I'm not sure.
All right. Well then,
but it's worth a look.
Okay. Well, Tim, can you bring us up? We got two down. So what can you tell me? What are you watching? What's tickling your pickle? What's on the docket?
I don't know. When you say tickle my pickle, I'm feeling a little dirty now. But inspired by Joey's horror movie month here, I thought not always being the biggest horror aficionado, I thought I would try to branch out a little bit, and I was going through my Netflix subscription the other day, and I came across a little series called the Santa Clarita Diet, starring Timothy Oliphant and Drew Barrymore. And it's they're basically husband and wife, and Drew's character, she gets violently ill and throws up all over a house that she's showing as a real estate agent, wharfs up this giant ball of God knows what it is, And then after that, she craves human flesh. And Timothy Oliphant, the husband, is just trying to deal with it and make the marriage work with his now semi-zombified wife. I've about 3 or 4 episodes in so far, and sometimes a little hard time watching Drew Barrymore because she still looks like that little girl from E.T. to me. I just like she's never become an adult in my mind. I don't know why I can't get past that. But Timothy Oliphant, man, he sells this series through and through, man. His acting is phenomenal in this, so it's worth it just for that if you're a fan of his at all. So I'm thoroughly entertained with this. Now, Joey, have you brought this series up before, or is this the first time it's being presented?
I've never watched it. I didn't. I didn't want to get on the hype train. I'm sorry to bring it down.
It's fine. I had no idea. I just stumbled upon it. I'd never heard of it before. I just happened to see it in my feed and like, I'll give this a try. So I had no preconceptions and I had no idea it was a big hit.
I forget that the thing continues to get ripped off. The volume 2 of Crisis on Infinite Earths, the animated movies, is on Max right now. The third one, I think you can buy it on home video or you can pay real money to rent it or something like that. But if you want to watch it on a streaming platform, I think they stole something I know they stole something from the thing. I don't think it's in the comic book at all. And there's these shadow creatures that they realize are all part of a whole, and then they form a giant version of the anti-monitor in this King Kong sized version of him. And I'm like, I don't think I've read all of Crisis on Infinite Earths, but I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. And they're just ripping off the thing in the lamest way possible. So there's your little thing crossover. I'm not looking forward to part 3 of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I'm going to throw down a little more then if you want to go for things that, do this. Season 1, episode 8 of the X-Files, Ice, is a direct, homage to The Thing. So if you need a little weird, sideline episode of something that's along the same lines, go check that episode of the X-Files out. All right, Matt, what are you watching?
True Detective Night Country is also very much The Thing. So it's scientists in an Arctic lab. All right.
Well, I'm going to first off use my comic book card and tell you that yes, it does exist in the comic. The whole thing ripoff. The anti-monitor is a bunch of shadow creatures that gather up. It was definitely in the comic series.
Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, so what I'm watching is well, since it's that time of year, I wanted to go out and I wanted to watch a horror movie or a monster movie that I could bring the whole family to. And we went out as a family and we watched Beetlejuice.
Oh, I can't wait.
And okay, I'm a huge Tim Burton fan. I'm a big Michael Keaton fan. And my daughter really likes Jenna Ortega. Those are probably the only highlights to this movie. The storyline, how Tim Burton movies have like a certain story or a certain glow to it. Like the TV series Wednesday was phenomenal. The original Beetlejuice was great. The Batman was great. Tim Burton has a certain je ne sais quoi to his stories. The story for this one had a lot of threads that I don't think needed to be there. Don't get me wrong.
They made it during the writer's strike, so they had to use the script as is.
Okay. Well, there are some entertaining things to it. There's some really cool stuff in the movie, some really great effects, but the storyline, it needed to be trimmed down. There was a lot of fat to it, and there were a lot of like threads that didn't seem to end right. There's like a whole storyline between the daughter and a boy in town that just kind of doesn't feel like it flows right. And I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I do recommend going out and see it because it definitely hits that nostalgia. There's just a few niggles to the movie that I didn't quite jive with me. But as far as watching it, I did enjoy myself.
Jenna Ortega, she's not just Wednesday. You need to rent the movie X, and you'll find out why her name's Sunday.
Okay, Matt, don't watch that with your daughter. Don't watch that with your daughter if Joey's
Absolutely
recommending it.
fucking not. She's never allowed to watch that movie.
Gotcha. I won't let my daughter see Scream. What is it, 6? Whichever one she's in. So, yeah. Well, I think that's about it. I lost my notes.
Just thinking about
Matt's too far gone now. He's like, oh my God, I can't even think about this anymore.
All right. Well, I think that's that pretty much does it for the night.
Geoff, as always, we would like to thank you for being a part of our podcast. We hope you weren't assimilated by the thing, but if you are, stay the hell away from me. Anyway, your film opinions are always welcome. We've enjoyed having you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I love being on here, and I love reviewing movies with you guys.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to the Middle Age Movie Reviews podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our review of The Thing, and you should go watch it so that you can identify in case any of your family members have become The Thing. And if they have, go get yourself a flamethrower because, my God, bad things are about to happen to you.
Please like and subscribe to our show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podchaser. If you think about it, leave us a review on said channels. Check out more of our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and X at MamReviews. And hey, speaking of flamethrowers,
Yes.
did you know that you could have a flamethrower with our logo on it?
Holy crap, I bet that's hot.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not a flamethrower. It's just a really hot shirt. That's right, folks. We have merchandising. We have t-shirts available at our Threadless shop, which is threadless.middleagemoviereviews.com. The link will be in our show notes. If you want to support the show and share the wondrousness that is Middle Age Movie Reviews, go out and buy yourself a shirt with our logo on it and spread the word. Let them know about Middle Age Movie Reviews podcast. And don't
Our
forget,
shirts also make, hang on, Matt. Our shirts also make a very nice propane tank caddy. I'm just saying.
And don't forget, we're also part of the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network, where you can get great shows like this one.
Yeah. Well, fuck you two.
Hey.
Fun
All
fact, Kurt Russell was the pilot who was on record as reporting the Phoenix Lights in Arizona. He didn't know it until years later when he was watching a special on the Phoenix Lights, and then he looked in his logbook and he realized, oh yeah, I reported those lights.